Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel and to highlights of Stage 5 of Paris-Nice 2021, a 200-kilometer transition style stage from Vienne to Berlin. There was a 99% chance that this would be a day for the sprinters. Yes, there was a couple of rollers in the last 20 kilometers, but they weren't particularly threatening and they were far enough from the finish that the sprinters' trains could bring back any attacks. There was an incredibly strong and cold headwind for the start of the stage. The peloton did, I think, the first hour at like 31 kilometers an hour on the flat, so not too much happened. No one really bothered to go on the break. We knew there wasn't going to be any GC action apart from maybe bonus seconds at the intermediate sprints, and it was going to come down to a sprint at the end for the likes of Ackermann, Bennett, Bauhaus and co. Probably the funniest and most exciting part of the stage was the attempted Belgian coup d'etat. Halfway through the stage, I presume they all got bored, and so at least 10 Belgians, Naesen, Turns, De Gent, Verwijken, Lampaert, Campenaerts, were all in cahoots to get into a breakaway at about 70 k's to go, and actually a pretty strong break when you think about all those riders in there, Gilbert as well. So Bora Hansgrohe, who weren't represented, actually got on the front, and Arkea Samsic as well to bring this back ASAP. The Belgians have tried things like this before on sleepy transition stages, but the next thing to happen at about 45 k's to go was a crash involving Tony Martin and Primoz Roglic. Kind of reminded me of that Vuelta crash in 2019 when they both went down. Tony Martin actually pretty banged up. He had to abandon the race, unfortunately. Hope he's okay. Roglic got back on his bike and was able to continue seemingly unscathed. In the last 20 k's, there was the last intermediate sprint, which Yoni Zagira and Maximilian Schachmann were both interested in. Schachmann did take back some seconds today on Roglic, but I'm surprised he didn't try on stage 1, where there was the intermediate sprints at the top of 2 short climbs. It was actually Yoni Zagira for this intermediate sprint at Durbu, who took 3 seconds, Schachmann 2 seconds, and Tish Benoit 1 second. And so after the Belgian hijinks and that intermediate sprint excitement, Tim de Klerk said, enough is enough. It's time to set this train up for the Koenig Quick-Step tailwind sprint. So it was that strong headwind at the start of the stage, but a big tailwind into the finish. The last 10 k's, they averaged like 68 kilometers an hour or something obscene. You know the rules. We'll do it in full speed, no cuts first, and then we'll break it down as much as we can, because as you can see, this is going to be an absolute exhibition for the Koenig Quick-Step. Seneschal on the front, Merku on his wheel, Sam Bennett in the green jersey on Merku's wheel, 550 meters to go. Dan McClay brings Nasser Bouhanni in the black helmet for Arkea Samsic up really late. Fantastic job from McClay. Christoph Pedersen, Cockard, Bouhanni, Nizzolo, all trying to fight. Bauhaus as well for Sam Bennett's wheel. Merku drops him off with about 180 meters to go. Ackermann coming deep, but tailwind sprint. There could only be one outcome. Bouhanni doing his best just to hold on to Sam Bennett's wheel. Ackermann coming third, and I think Bauhaus or Nizzolo fourth. Complete dominance from Quick-Step in the last 1200 meters of this sprint, despite Sam Bennett, and we couldn't see it unfortunately, having to sprint himself to get back onto his train with about 1500 or 1800 meters to go. He got squeezed off Merku's wheel and had to get back onto his wheel. But unfortunately for the other sprinters here, Bennett is just way too good, and having to do that full kick before the final sprint didn't really affect or change anything. You can see that Bouhanni in the overhead is barely holding onto his wheel despite having the slipstream. So let's break down the Quick-Step lead-out and see why it was almost impossible for any other team to win this race once it was set up with 1k to go. Lampaert's on the front for the Koenig Quick-Step under the Flamme Rouge. He's going to try and do a 250 meter pull. Remember that it's a tailwind sprint, so they don't need to drop Bennett off as late as they would normally. And behind Lampaert, he's got Seneschal second wheel, then Merku third, and Bennett in the green jersey. So notice the numbers Quick-Step have. 3 lead-out men in the last kilometer for Sam Bennett. No other team has more than 1 lead-out man at this point in the race. Bauhaus is deeper with just Hausler in front of him. Mads Pedersen only has Sturven at this point. Ackermann has no lead-out men. Demar just has Guarnieri. So the best those riders are going to be able to do is to move them up as far as Sam Bennett's wheel, because you see Hausler does that with Bauhaus, who squeezes Christoph off Bennett's wheel pretty aggressively from Bauhaus. Christoph had to stop pedaling, otherwise he would have got onto the barriers. No sanctions for Bauhaus, obviously, because there was no crash. 550 meters to go, and you've got Dan McClay bringing Massabuani up from the left-hand side. Fantastic lead out from Dan McLay. But the problem is, by the time he gets to about 550, 525 meters to go, he's going to be done. And you've still got Merku sitting on Seneschal's wheel, who's relatively fresh with Bennett on his wheel. And the same applies to Mads Pedersen, who's behind Sturven. Sturven's just made a big move to bring Mads Pedersen up to that point. But at 550 to go, their lead-out men are all done, whilst Merku begins to kick at 550 after Seneschal's 300-meter pull, and he's able to surge right past Dan McLay at 400 meters to go. Buani obviously can't kick with 425 to go, so he has to slot onto Sam Bennett's wheel, which, to be honest, is not a bad outcome. With 300 meters to go, Bennett is checking whether anyone's trying to get the jump on him or whether he can still wait. He sees that no one is actually coming past even his back wheel, so he waits until 180 meters to go in this tailwind sprint. Merku left enough space on his right for just Bennett, but Bennett goes the open side to his left, and then the shortest line along the barriers, and that was a wrap. Perfect lead out from Quickstep in the last kilometre. We knew Bennett was the heavy favourite for the stage. I'm not really sure what any of the other teams could do, particularly with Arnaud Demar not looking on great form, as well as his lead-out man Guarnieri also not feeling too good. Here's the results: Sam Bennett first, Buani second, Ackermann third, Bauhaus fourth, Nizzolo, Christophe, Coquard, Laporte, Rudy Barbier and Danny Van Poppel. So Israel are obviously sprinting for Barbier now, not Greipel. A few other things of note from this sprint: Demar came 13th on the road, but he actually got relegated into last position in the peloton. And we presume La Flamme Rouge, aka UCI VAR, got this screen grab of the overhead with 1,700 meters to go, with Demar fighting, I think it must be Ackermann, off his lead-up man Guarnieri's wheel. You can see Demar there. It didn't look great, looks worse on video, but to be honest, I've seen very comparable things from other riders throughout this Paris-Nice that have gone unpunished, from Bennett and Laporte, etc. But hey, that's the way it goes. If you use your head, even if it's less dangerous than elbowing someone, you're more likely to get sanctioned. Stage 6 today will hopefully be a spicy one. 202 kilometers, a medium mountain stage, with most of the mountains in the middle to the last third of the stage, constant rolling climbs all day, with a finish that's 2 kilometers at 5% up to Bio. I'm hoping that Schachmann, Turns and Benoit try and make the most of this stage to attack Primoz Roglic. It's one of their last chances, because on stage 7, Le Colmien, that's pure Roglic territory where he has the advantage over them. What I'm most keen to see is how Michael Matthews does on this stage. If he gets to the finish, I think he'll be the favourite for the stage. Obviously, Roglic is a heavy favourite too with a finish like that. I'd love to see a break go up the road, but if it's all together, Matthews, who's climbing really well based on how he did on the Cheruble stage, could be a shout for the uphill finish. If you want to watch the stage, here's all the live and on delay broadcasters. It should be an option for you wherever you are in the world. Big thanks to you all for the massive support lately. Obviously been putting out a lot of content both on this channel and the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, putting up Tirreno Adriatico podcasts there as well in case you want to catch up with that. But otherwise, hope you're well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.